And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Dotson, here with my fellow nerds, Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
And Garret Price.
How's it going?
It's going well. We're doing a little remote podcasting today. Everybody's in the comfort of their own home talking Dynasty Fantasy Football where it's safe, because these Dynasty Fantasy Football streets are not safe, my friends. People are dropping left and right out there. I hope your team is staying healthy.
That's why I'm home, Rich. One of my favorite players dropped, so we'll talk about it. We'll get into it. I can't. I'm too depressed to leave.
Yeah, one of my favorite players of all time. Last week, Nick Chubb. Now it's Matt's guy. He's out for the year as well. So a lot of injuries going on. There's some strategy around that in Dynasty Fantasy Football. I kind of want to hit on that before we actually talk about these injuries. Or no, right after these injuries, I'm going to hit on it.
If DJ Dallas gets hurt next week, you may never see me again.
Oh, well, I thought maybe if like Javonte tore his knee up again or something.
Another one. It'll probably, you both lost one guy. I'm going to lose three. It'll be Spears, DJ Dallas, and Javonte, and I'll just you'll never see me again.
Just don't even put that out. Don't even put that out in the ether, man. Don't say that kind of stuff.
I don't want to lose my new love, Devon Achane, out there as well. And that's right, it's Devon Achane. He officially changed his name. Well, it's probably all that way, but he officially changed it to media guide after that big game. He was like, can you guys call me Devon Achane? It isn't cool as Achane. But we'll talk about him as well. Some injuries. What to do here as we enter week 4 of the Dynasty world, because after week 4, the bye weeks are going to start coming, and that does mean a lot in Dynasty Fantasy Football. So we got to talk about that. So let's get into it. Before we do, we got to tell you, of course, about our friends at Underdog Fantasy. It's a brand new sign-up offer they got going on right now. If you claim your mystery pick'em special up to $100 deposit match, you're going to get a bonus $100. I mean, it's that simple. Like, you put $100 in, they're gonna give you $100. All you gotta do is use that promo code NERDS, make a deposit, head to the lobby to find out which player pick'em special you got. So you're getting a special pick'em and a deposit match by using that promo code NERDS. What are you waiting for? Get signed up, UnderdogFantasy.com via the App Store with the promo code NERDS. Underdog will double your deposit up to $100. But there's more. Dynasty Nerds is also gonna give you a free Underdog, with the Underdog subscription. We're going to give you a free Nerd Herd membership for a full year. You're going to access to Dynasty GM, the app, the best app out there, soon to be on your Sleeper app. I was playing around with that on Sleeper actually yesterday. And of course, the film room and so much more. Check it out. Use that promo code NERDS. Underdog Fantasy. I'm up over double my money so far as we enter week 4 in Underdog.
There you go.
And all my best ball leagues I did in the summer. Feel very good. First place in a lot. So that's a 4-digit number. Doing pretty good over here. So let's so after we talk about these injuries, guys, I want to kind of like bring up like what you do at this point of the year, because this is a very important part of the season this week and the next couple of weeks here in Dynasty Fantasy Football. And we'll talk about that after getting these injuries. Garrett, let's go over some of these injuries that we have going on here in the NFL.
We had the one devastating injury, but other than that, it was a mild week compared to what we've been seeing the past few. Start out, Matt. Do you want to take the lead on Mike Williams here?
I mean, obviously, he was having a great game. My man ended up with a 7 reception, 121 yard and 1 touchdown stat line on 8 targets. And then the knee went out, and obviously there was some concern. Everyone sees him getting carried off, kind of helped off the field. And the lower leg was kind of the first initial type of diagnosis, but everyone kind of thought, hey, at least I thought, hey, maybe it's just some sort of issue that he can get over, maybe short-term kind of stay on the IR, maybe a 4-week type of thing. But the bad news came down after the MRI that it is, in fact, the dreaded ACL injury, and Mike Williams is done for the entire season, right as he was getting hot.
That's a tough one. We've seen the first few weeks, Keenan Allen, he's had an incredible season. He's putting up monster numbers each and every week. So there's really no question about, is he going to eat? Obviously, he's going to. The bigger question is, who fills in for Mike Williams? Right now, it looks like it's Josh Palmer as kind of the lead guy, but they drafted Quentin Johnston in the first round. So who are you guys picking as far as the player that you think is going to fill in most admirably for Mike Williams?
Yeah, this is a playoff caliber team, so I'm gonna go ahead and stick with the veteran here, Josh Palmer. And Quentin Johnson, he is a first round prospect, and he's an exciting big time player. But this is a team with Super Bowl aspirations, playoff aspirations, and they have Keenan Allen out there right now. And when we saw Keenan Allen go out, Mike Williams go out, Josh Palmer actually ran the same amount of routes as Keenan Allen did. They only put Quentin Johnson in for 3 routes, while Josh Palmer ran 10. So, Josh Palmer's always been a nice player. Anytime that Keenan Allen's gone down or Mike Williams come down, and sometimes they're both down, he had to step up. Josh Palmer's always, produced at a low level, but still produced. Justin Herbert right now is absolutely humming. He's playing perfect. Quarterback 1 right now overall in fantasy football. And for me, I think if I'm making a move and you're looking for a fly, or say you're a real thin at receiver, maybe for like a late second round pick, Josh Palmer might not be a bad addition to your team, who will be a free agent next year. Now, yeah, that is a little pricey, and you might want to wait. Let's see how it pans out. But if I had to predict right now who's going to kind of eat number 2 in that offense in the passing game, it's going to be Josh Palmer.
Yeah, I mean, I think early on that's going to be true. That's how I feel. Like, the news kind of coming out is that they kind of wanted to slow play Quentin Johnston and get him kind of acclimated to the NFL and up to speed a bit before they gave him a larger role. And that's kind of why he hadn't been playing much at the beginning of the season. Obviously, things change with this injury. He's gonna get pushed up the rung at least one spot, which, I think would put him at the number 3 spot, which, I mean, right now that's not going to equate to a lot of fantasy numbers, but he is a first round draft pick. You said that, Rich, yourself. So this is a player that I think is going to, in the next few weeks, start getting more and more and more acclimated to the game and probably get more and more targets. So while Josh Palmer might be a nice short-term player, I don't know that he has the type of skills. He just doesn't have the tools in his tool belt, the same as a Quentin Johnston. So I think as he learns the game and kind of grows a bit here with exposure to the NFL game, Quentin Johnston is going to be the guy that you're eventually going to want. So I wouldn't go overpaying for Josh Palmer or anything like that on the trade market personally, because I just think he's
I retract that statement. I retract it. When I said, throw a second round pick, the whole time you've been talking about Sarah, I was like, I wouldn't pay a second round pick for Josh Palmer. No, absolutely not.
It's too stiff of a price for me. Quentin Johnston's just sitting there waiting in the wings. So that's who I would bet my money on that eventually will become the fantasy relevant guy.
Is it concerning at all to you guys? Because it used to be a lot more like what the Chargers are doing, where they would bring the receivers along slowly, and by year 2, year 3, that's when they really expected them to step into the offense and be a big part. But that's not how things have gone the past 6-7 years. Things have changed where they're inserting rookie wide receivers in the lineup right away. They're getting lots of targets right away. We're seeing that again this year, even from some late round guys like Puka Nacua. And I know some of that stuff is due to injury and whatnot, but Zay Flowers is seeing a lot of work. Jordan Addison is seeing a lot of work. Is it concerning at all that they're slow playing this, or is it just simply Mike Williams was that good and Josh Palmer's that good?
Yeah, I think it's honestly a little concerning.
But I think having those guys on there gives them the ability to slow play. You know what I mean? Whereas, the Ravens, who the hell do they really have that's better than Zay Flowers that's established? No one. Odell Beckham's a shell of himself. Bateman's just injured all the time. And Puka Nacua got thrust in due to injury. You know what I mean? So he wouldn't have had a prominent role as he's having now if Cooper Kupp was still there. I think he probably was good enough to still be the number 2 guy there, so he probably would have had those targets. But the fact that they're slow playing Quentin Johnston, it says some things to me. It says that he has some stuff he needs to work on. But they took him in the first round with high expectations, and I'm sure those expectations haven't just vanished through 3 weeks of the NFL season. So I would imagine now it kind of their mindset's changed. It's flipped a switch. Hey man, sorry, we were going to try to ease you in. Now it's kind of baptism by fire a little bit.
Yeah. All right. We have a couple guys dealing with some concussions this week. Jonathan Mingo, and we've seen fewer players come back the following week, and I think that's due to how much more strict they're being with their concussion protocol and all the hoops guys have to jump through. I was talking with Matthew Betts last week, and it's something close to like 80% of players now are missing the following week when they have a concussion. So chances are we're not going to see Jonathan Mingo this week. We're probably not seeing Jimmy G, although if there's a position that I could see them fast tracking, it would tend to be the quarterback. So we'll see how that plays out. But the bigger news is probably Derek Carr with this AC joint injury. They pulled him out of the game. Jameis Winston went in. Right now they're calling it week to week, but we already have heard rumblings about they just signed Jake Luton or Lutton or however you pronounce it. They signed him to the practice squad. Like there are already kind of some signs and some warning signals that Derek Carr might be missing this week. Rich, how worried are you with him potentially missing, or with Jameis Winston there? Is it still wheels up for Olave and Thomas and guys like that?
Yeah, I think. Jameis has already played with Michael Thomas a ton there in New Orleans, and but he's still a very good vet. Okay, let me take that back. Not very good. He's a veteran quarterback that could push the ball downfield. Olave's got he runs good routes. He's got really good hands. So if it's someone out of his reach, he'll be good. I said he's already played with Michael Thomas on that roster too, and Alvin Kamara comes back this week. So is it a downgrade? Yeah, but at least, is Jameis considered probably one of the best number 2 quarterbacks in the NFL that you could possibly have to step into that starting role? I would think so. Familiar with the team, not new to the offense. So a slight step back, but it's not like Derek Carr has been lighting the fantasy football world on fire as well. Right. Like he hasn't been out there producing big time numbers. So if anything, with the way Jameis can push the ball downfield, maybe this opens up things a little bit more for the receivers out there in Olave and Michael Thomas, and see if maybe Juwan Johnson get a little bit more involved. But we'll see, because Alvin Kamara is coming back is also going to help. So we haven't had a chance to see Derek Carr play with Alvin Kamara yet, and we're gonna have to wait a little bit. And this is gonna be it's not like it's gonna be right away. This is anywhere from week 5 to week 8 where he's gonna be coming back at. So it's like they said, like it's usually like a 2 to 4 week injury here. So a little concerning, but also excited at the same time to see Jameis get out there and make some plays. Somebody's in injury. They need a quarterback in the meantime. It's a good time to offload Jameis Winston in Superflex leagues. Maybe get a 3rd round pick, a 4th round pick, a 5th round pick. Really just about anything, because you had almost a zero asset on your roster. Anytime a quarterback gets a start, there's always somebody looking for a little bit of help. Maybe there was a contender that had Justin Fields. They don't feel comfortable getting him out there, and they think he has better weapons out there in New Orleans. So, really this rate, any kind of pick whatsoever is a benefit, even if it's a 4th round pick. Now you have 2 4th round picks, and maybe by the time you get to the 3rd round, there'll be somebody you like there, and somebody will take 2 4ths for a 3rd, so it could actually get you bumped up to the 3rd. So that's where I would be looking this week with the Saints quarterback situation.
Yeah, and for me, this does feel like potentially a good situation for some of the assets on the outside. Rashid Shaheed, being another one that Rich didn't mention as a guy that can get downfield, might have a little bit of a bump as well in this offense. It's not like Rich said, Derek Carr wasn't tearing that up or anything like that. So as if you're a New Orleans fan, get ready for some ups and downs. There's going to be some exciting stuff with Jameis Winston. There's going to be some really, really bad plays with Jameis Winston. Luckily, they have a solid to actually more than solid, a very, very good defense. So they'll be able to maybe hide some of his mistakes if he does get a little too loose with the football, so to speak, and has some bad turnovers. But from a fantasy perspective, I don't think this is bad at all. And actually, it could be a good thing, just from a fantasy output for the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a team that is in a bad division, and they have just as much of a chance to make the playoffs as any other team, because 9 wins will probably get it done in this division. That'll probably send you to the playoffs. So they're still going to be all in. They're still going to be, flinging the ball down the field. And it'll be interesting to see how much they let Jameis be Jameis with that defense. Is they going to say like, hey, go do your thing, sling it down the field? Or are they going to kind of try to rein him back a little bit? Just like, hey, don't turn the ball over. Let's make smart decisions. Like, I'm really curious to see what the play calling looks like, and if that helps or hurts some of these weapons, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Can they rein him in? Is that possible? I feel like
I don't know,
that
man.
dude just eats W's.
It's true.
And once he starts, it's never going to stop.
I mean, his workouts are legendary, so they probably saw the workout tape and said, "Hey, let the ball go. Just let it sling.
Let it go. Let it fly."
Last injury update we have here: Saquon Barkley, his ankle. He already missed this past week, so this isn't a new injury, but there is some new information. Finally, he admitted, like, "Oh yeah, it is a high ankle sprain." Like originally, it was just an ordinary ankle injury, whatever that means.
Right.
But it's now a high ankle, so it sounds like week 4 is still probably unlikely. We're probably not seeing him back until week 5 at best. So probably one more week without Saquon Barkley. Anything as far as their backup running backs or how this affects Daniel Jones, or is it just wait till he comes back and it is what it is?
Well, I hope it's not for things to come that what happened last week with that abysmal performance by Daniel Jones and your Giants. And, Matt Breida is just a Jag, so he's nothing special whatsoever. It's just one of the things you're just to be patient for and wait till he comes back. And like you said, you hope it's week 5 compared to week 6. I do have a running back that might be on somebody's waiver wire. Not a lot of leagues won't be on his waiver. It might be a good sneaky pickup.
Who's that?
You do lose Barkley. Keaton Mitchell, running back for the Ravens. Was an undrafted free agent, and this
Carolina,
is a player.
right?
Yeah, yep, East Carolina University, and right now Melvin Gordon they brought up, and Justice Hill. We know Justice Hill; he's got a speed to get the outside. But that's about all he can do. And when last time we saw Keaton Mitchell before he had to go to IR, which he's able to come back after this week, so he's eligible to come back week 5. He was getting some first team reps there in the preseason. Looked pretty good when he was in there too. When we didn't know when J.K. Dobbins was going to come back, like he actually looked pretty good out there for the Baltimore Ravens. He's another fast guy, not bad in the open field whatsoever. So Keaton Mitchell, running back for the Baltimore Ravens, might be a sneaky pickup for Dynasty leagues if he's available on your waiver wires.
I like it.
Yeah, that's a nice one. But speaking of guys coming off IR, real quick before we move on, what are we doing with the Colts situation? Obviously, Zach must have been playing pretty well, right? But Taylor is expected to be coming back also week 5. Are we trying to move on from this guy? I know this wasn't part of our little shoot.
No, it's all good.
It was just something that popped in my head with when Rich started talking injuries and people coming off IR.
I think it comes
feeling about that. What do you guys think?
I think it comes down to if he's willing to play for the Colts. Like if his stance changed, like, hey, I'm just gonna play on this contract, become a free agent next year, and just move on with my life. Or he's like, hey man, my back still hurts a little bit, and they're okay. We're just gonna trade you, and he pulls T.J. Hawkinson. All of a sudden, my back feels great, kind of situation. So I think it's really ball is kind of in Jonathan Taylor's court because there are some teams out there right now that could use a running back. So we obviously some teams that we thought before, like the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills, no longer need a guy like that. But Jonathan Taylor is a top tier talent. So if you have him, it's more of a wait and see, Garrett. I don't know how you feel about it, but like I'm really more like is he going to play for the Colts? Is he not? Because I really thought he was going to get traded up at the trade deadline, and he ended up not getting traded. So it's a real unknown right now if he even plays again. I know Adam Schefter had that report saying that he does plan on playing week 5.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm banking all of that on is, and granted, things could change between then and now, but it does seem like what he decided to do is kind of run its course. He proved his point that he's not happy, and he's a smart guy. He's a very intelligent player. I think he's going to kind of read the tea leaves. Just, I got to do what I got to do. I got to play my year so I can get out of here and get where I need to get. So I do expect that to happen. And I think once that does, he's going to get a pretty full complement of touches. Sure, maybe Zach Moss is still involved, but I've seen some people talking about, it's now going to be a split, or I think maybe that happens for 1 week while Jonathan Taylor gets reacclimated with the offense and Anthony Richardson. But I just can't imagine after a week or so that it's any sort of split. I think it's going to be Jonathan Taylor, the lead back in the offense. He's far too talented. And I think this Colts team with Anthony Richardson is playing a little bit better than maybe people initially realized. And that's another division where we saw this week, it's wide open. The Texans beat the Jaguars. Like, nobody is unbeatable in that division. So out of nowhere, the Colts could make the playoffs and make things really interesting. So I think Jonathan Taylor comes in, and if there's still any dip left, which I'm guessing he's only become more expensive in most leagues as he gets closer and closer to his opportunity to come back. But if there's any discount remaining, I'm still willing to scoop that up, because I think once he gets reacclimated with this offense, we're talking about a guy that's going to be a top, for the rest of the games that he's playing on a points per game basis, a top 5-6 back the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Zach Moss is currently right now. Zach Moss over the last 2 games is running back number 5 overall. And we know Jonathan Taylor's a better running back than Zach Moss. So that offense, we obviously know can run the ball well, and what we already see with Zach Moss. So it's going to be interesting. I agree with you, Garrett, that he'll just kind of split the carries early. But this is going to be a healthy Jonathan Taylor coming in for this team. And we've already seen what Zach Moss can do in this offense. So it's going to be an exciting time to get Jonathan Taylor. If you've been able to hold off these last couple of weeks, pull maybe even going 500, get a win, or 2-2 here. It's going to be an exciting time to get Jonathan Taylor back. Even if you had plans to trade him, if it's anything like Zach Moss, who's averaging over 20 points per game, averaging about 21 points per game right now, you're going to be able to get a major haul back for Jonathan Taylor if you're trying to look to sell right before that second contract, which is a great selling time for running backs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, so real quick, I guess, before we move on again.
Look at you, Mr. Interjection here.
No, I know. I'm playing the part of Rich today and just jumping right in and maybe even swimming over top of people. But Anthony Richardson, you guys mentioned him again, and it dinged another thing in my brain. Also, not practicing yet again this week early on. Any long-term concern there? Like, dude, this might be a much worse kind of head injury than we expected. That he's still not playing.
I haven't heard anything about that. But yeah, that I don't love hearing that. I'd be curious to see.
I just wanted to get through. I'm sure no one loves hearing it. I just want to kind of get the reaction.
I will be concerned if he misses this week, but my guess is they're probably being cautious with it, and we'll see him probably in Thursday's practice. If we're not seeing him in Thursday and Friday, and he's up to game time to sit, then yeah, I'm a little bit concerned, but I could see it just simply being we're going to take it easy in practice this week. No unnecessary risks, and we'll get him in there on Thursday for the full walkthrough of everything, and we should be good. So I'm kind of waiting now with bated breath for Thursday's practice report.
And I'm a bit split, because I feel like he's such a guy that's in need of development that I would think they'd want him in there as much as possible, and the fact that they're not doing it has kind of another red flag up. But also I could see your point, Garrett, that you just made as, hey, let's just take it easy. Let's get him kind of through the week and kind of progress him slowly, just because he's the franchise basically. So, I mean, I kind of see both sides of the coin there a bit. So if he doesn't practice, I will be worried that it was a pretty substantial head injury. So
yeah, I'm
not a doctor again, but just
not a doctor,
concerned. Yep.
Not yet, at least.
Dr. Matt.
So, where were we over here? Sorry about that.
Talk about Sleeper.
Oh yeah, I gotta talk about our friends over here at Sleeper. I lost my my sheet. I was reading some notes here while Matt was going on his rant there. Oh, dude, man,
you gotta stay focused, Rich. I mean, all the talking you do, and me and Garrett are always focused.
I was reading about somebody, a player. So I got to tell you about our friends at Sleeper. Everybody knows Sleeper. At least half our audience has their Dynasty leagues on Sleeper right now. And we have a new partnership with them. And right now it's great because Sleeper offers this new way to play DFS where you can win up to 100 times your entry, the highest payouts in all the DFS market. You can track your fantasy players and your Sleeper picks in real time. Choose 2 to 8 of your favorite players from the pregame, live, in-game, or even across different sports. Pick more or less in the predicted stats. Only on Sleeper can you get up to 100 times your payouts. You can share with your friends, get rewarded together. As long as you use that promo code NERDS, and you're going to get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use details. Currently operational in over 25 states. With our partnership, we're integrating our Dynasty GM experience into the Sleeper app. Look for that in the minis tab in the bottom right-hand corner on your Sleeper app soon. As far far as I know, I was just playing with it the other day. Should hopefully be up by week 5. Don't forget to use the promo code NERDS, 100% match on a deposit up to $100. There's going to be a link in the show sheet, so you can click on that or use the middle tab on your Sleeper app. And we're also going to let everybody that listens, like if you want another try, again, you want to try like the league analyzer and trade calculator, we're going to open it up for a whole week on the Sleeper app when it debuts for everybody to check out.
There we go. Let's also make sure we remind you about FFPC. That's right. It is the best place to play your high stakes Dynasty League. Leagues never fold over there, but right now we're focused on the weekly challenges. There's no draft, no salary cap, no convoluted rules. It's super simple and easy. 10-team, 30-team, or even 100-team contest. Just pick your players by Sunday's 1 p.m. start and let them ride. Results will be determined by the total points accumulated by each lineup entry, and you will get $25 off a $35 or $200 entry by using the promo code NERDS. That's right, promo code NERDS. So go to myffpc.com, look for the weekly challenges, and use promo code NERDS for $25 off any entry for new members.
Yeah, before we talk about these next couple of players, I just want to remember, I'll probably mention this over the next couple of weeks as well. But this is a really good time as, we see these injuries come up every single week. We just lost Mike Williams. We're losing players left and right, definitely at the running back position. Teams that thought they were going to be contenders in your Dynasty League are no longer contenders, and they're starting to feel the heat. Right now, you have a team sitting at 1-3, 0-3. I highly encourage you to go look at those rosters and look at what pieces you feel like would be a good fit to help you be a contender. To start poaching them, because they might start feeling, hey, my draft pick's gonna be a high draft pick. If I'm already 0-3, I might as well go ahead and go try and get a Marvin Harrison. I can start shedding some of this old weight on my roster. That's anywhere from 27, 28. And this is where you really start to find value on players. When people are more desperate to offload, they're usually willing to take a little bit less than the off season or right before the season starts, or even closer to the playoff time. The sooner you get on this, the better it will be, because as you get to the playoff or the trade deadline, people are going to really start to ask for a little bit more, knowing that you're a little bit more desperate. Right now, the desperate teams are the 1-2 teams, the 0-3 teams. And same thing next week and the week after that. You want to start paying attention, because even now there's that false mirage of competition right now, because nobody's experienced the bye weeks, right? Like, even if you're able to stay healthy, that's fine. There's no bye weeks. You're not missing players that aren't playing. Well, after this week, players will start hitting their buys. More players will get injured. So over these next 3-4 weeks are going to be absolutely the best time in your league to acquire draft picks if you're selling, or to acquire players at somewhat of a discount. So I just want to throw it out there. We'll probably mention every single week, but this is the perfect time to make sure you're checking it every single week. Look at the bottom of the rosters, identifying teams that were contenders that are no longer contenders. And that's what's great about the Dynasty GM app as well, and that League Analyzer. It kind of really helps you navigate that very quickly. So I'd monitor that every single week and watch these teams are slowly starting to fall back and start to poach them.
No, that's a great reminder. That life cycle of Dynasty. It's always important to remember when the best time to capitalize on certain players are.
So let's talk about a guy that I absolutely loved.
Oh, tell him, Rich. Tell him.
The whole process after we got done watching our film and we gave our final ranks on the show. Like, I had Devon Achane as my number 4 overall player. And I did get a little bit of slack on that. That was okay. I still love the player. I know a lot of people were saying, "Oh, you can't have Zach Charbonnet," and I just kind of giggled at that one because that was an easy person. I had Tajay Spears ahead of Charbonnet, just as you did too, Garrett. But Devon Achane, that's his name now. No longer Devon Achane, it's Achane. He had an absolute massive game. Yeah. 18 attempts, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 targets, 4 receptions, 30 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So right now, the lid has exploded, right? The pot is boiling. He is red hot. Good luck going out there trying to trade for him now. Some owners might be trying to offset him or offload him for a first and second, then get him. Definitely if he slips a second round in some drafts. But this is really exciting for me, for a person that, I talk about on the podcast a lot, where I get real excited when what I study on tape for a player translates to the NFL, and it translates early. Like when you see that come into fruition early, kind of how we were talking about Bijan, right, the other day of how smooth that came into transition NFL. Everything, I have a video I just retweeted out on YouTube that I did about a little over 4 months ago, right after NFL draft, kind of explaining why I thought Devon Achane could be a running back one. And everything I say in this video, it's about a 5-minute video. It's on my Twitter at Dynasty Rich, came to fruition. This is a player that, despite his size, where he's a little bit smaller, plays bigger than he is. He's not afraid to run to be between the tackles. He has amazing speed. He has just as good of vision. He's explosive in the open field. He could bounce off tacklers at times, even though he's a little bit smaller. And he really dominates in that outside zone scheme. And when he went to Miami, he was already my rookie 1-4 pre-draft process. And the fact that he went to Miami in the third round post-draft, that just really solidified that 1-4 and kind of underlined it for me. And we saw everything that he does on tape in that scheme, in that system, just come to fruition. And he only had 4 targets, 4 receptions, because Raheem Mostert's very viable in the passing game as well. And I know there was no Jalen Waddle, but man, did he dominate with those ones as well, those 2 touchdowns. Now I know there were 2 of those were those sneak plays where they looked their fade out and there's a quick shuttle pass right there at the goal line and he got in there. But what I'm most excited about is he's a home run threat anytime he touches the ball. And he showed that already. And it wasn't like this was garbage time, like big time plays. I know the 165-yard run there's 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, but he was getting carries early on there with Raheem Mostert. And I said 18 for 203. Those are the kind of numbers that you could expect for Devon Achane. Yes. Will he get bottled up in some games? Of course. But this is a big-time player that I look to be a running back one. And to me, just as excited as Alvin Kamara looked 8 years ago, that's how excited I am about a guy like Devon Achane in this system. And I've used personally Alvin Kamara as a reference now for years, saying, when we talk about these kind of players, like, is Alvin Kamara the best running back in the NFL? No, but that scheme fits him perfectly, and that's how he's been able to dominate and be a fantasy football Hall of Famer at the running back position for how many running back one seasons he's had. He's a Hall of Fame Dynasty fantasy football player, and I think Devon Achane could come that player. So when we talk about what could be an overpay today, could be an underpay tomorrow, what are you guys paying for Devon Achane after one game?
Well, Rich, obviously, anyone that took him in a league that we were in, it was likely in the first round. Some people, he might have slipped to the second round, right? I mean, a week ago, you could have gotten him for a first pretty easily, probably, right? All around. Hey, yeah, I'll cash that in. He's got 1.9 points last week, none in week 1. Now there's a bump. I mean, you don't score 51 points in a week and not get some sort of bump, right? Is it 2 first-round draft picks? I mean, I would imagine that's the asking price, right? And that's probably the price of doing business. Is that what you're willing to pay? Who knows, man?
I hate paying 2 firsts for running backs. I really do. I wouldn't mind paying 2 firsts and I'm getting like Achane and a second back.
Yeah.
It depends on where those firsts are too.
Contender. Yeah. I mean, you'd have to be a contender.
Right.
If you're talking running back.
You absolutely would. So that's kind of my thought process. If I'm selling him, I'm not taking anything less than 2. Otherwise I'll just hold on to him and wait for him to have another game. I mean, obviously, listen, Miami scored 70 points this week. That is not going to happen every week. So this is definitely the high water mark. I mean, it's likely high. It's probably his high water mark for his entire career, right? I mean,
yeah, 100%. Only 9 players have done that before, put over 50 points that are non-quarterbacks.
Right. So, let's not get crazy. He looks great. Everything is kind of what you explained, Rich. Like, he is a great fit for this scheme. He obviously does exactly what they want. You look at the numbers as far as miles per hour from this past weekend, and it's Devon Achane at 21.93, Tyreek Hill at 21.66, Raheem Mostert at 21.62, Tyreek Hill 21.52, and then Devon Achane at 21.5. Those are the top 5 speed, like the guys that ran the fastest in the NFL this past week. So they want to get out and run. They have all the guys to do it. I mean, you're taking Jalen Waddle out of the picture here. You still got the top 5 guys, or the top 5, miles per hour plays. So these guys, they know what they want. They're good at identifying them, and they're great at fitting these guys into their scheme and kind of highlighting them. So Devon Achane, he's a perfect match. he does exactly what they want him to do. I feel so dirty saying 2 first-round draft picks is what I would take for him. Would I pay it? God, man, if in the right scenario, I would. If I'm sitting on the precipice of a championship team, and this guy's, listen, he's not going to get you 51 every week, but he can get you 20 and 25, and those are championship winning type of players right there. So if they're 2 late first round draft picks, I'm okay. I'm okay giving that. I don't feel great about it, but I'm okay.
I'd offer that instead. I would try to get Achane a second back. That's what I would like to get back in a second. And I know there's a lot of people probably listening in their in their headphones right now or their radios going 2 firsts for Devon Achane. But I mean, you got to really think this out for long term for Dynasty, right? Like, you're not finding many running backs that are going to put up 20 points per game. It's hard enough to find guys that consistently give you 15 to 16 points per game. If you're talking about a guy who's like 21 years old, and like we just said, in a scheme, in a system that's probably almost guaranteed to be in this offense for the next 4 years because Mike McDaniel's not going anywhere, definitely with Tua. Raheem Mostert's 31 years old. I know they like Jeff Wilson's, but he'll be 28. They're not going to be long on this roster after this year. It'd be hard to see, as good as Raheem Mostert looks, it'd be hard to see a 32-year running back on there. And even then, 2-3 years down the road, if you have a chance, I mentioned, if you have a chance to get an Alvin Kamara today, 2 first-round picks would look like you're stealing. And is it a risk? Yes, but it's no riskier than the 2 draft picks you're going to, what the guys you're going to select. That's all it is. It's Dynasty. It's all going to be a risk. But this is a player that we saw his tape, and now it's translating to NFL. Again, 1 game, but like when people's like, that's where I stop, and people are like, oh, Rich, it's just 1 game. It's 1 game. No, it's not 1 game. It's his entire college career that I watch, and then he went to the perfect system fit for that college career, and I saw what he could do in that 1 game. So if anything, this price tag could go up, and it's not going to differentiate for that for 2 firsts anyway. So if I can get him for 2 firsts and I get him in a second back, I'd be pretty happy with that. And yeah, is it risky? But that's kind of risk you got to take because there's very limited windows to get those kind of players before they become almost unattainable for what you had to give up to get them, where it hurts your team compared to help them. And what looks like an overpay today is going to be underpaid tomorrow. Garrett, I'm kind of interested to see what you have to say about this.
Yeah, I'm thrilled with what I saw this past week. It was truly incredible to watch. He was a guy that I had a high grade on. Basically, in the nerd score, if you have above a 72, the hit rate is really, really high. And then especially if you cross into that 73, 74 threshold, the hit rates are pretty legit in the nerd score that Jared and I do. He had a 73.83, so very good score, especially considering he got knocked on a few things just because, I had to rank for how does he do with true pure power. Well, I can't give him a super high grade with that, but I don't think he's going to win that way. I think he's going to win with his speed and his elusiveness at the next level. And he breaks tackles pretty well for a guy his size. So all of the things that I had, as far as acceleration and speed were just off the charts. And I remember talking about kind of like, when we were talking about Anthony Richardson, I was like, if this guy goes to Indianapolis, it's a perfect fit. And it was the same thing with Devon Achane when we talked about him pre-draft. If he goes to Miami, it's a perfect fit. It's an offense predicated on speed. He's able to, he doesn't have to do a ton of wiggling. It's basically, hey, put your foot in the ground, find the seam, go, and just hit that seam hard. And for a sprinter, a legitimate Olympic level sprinter like he is, it's a perfect fit. So loved getting to see him out there. It was weird that, Ahmed and guys like that were ahead of him, but it's really nice to see him play and perform this well. No, of course, he's not going to do this type of thing every week, but when we're talking about the 2 first range, is it possibly premature to talk about that? I guess, but am I willing to do it? Yeah, I am willing to do it because I don't anticipate this price tag going down. Like, sure, maybe he has 1 bad week and people panic that he's too small or he's, whatever, but he is a perfect fit for what they do. And he is a really, really talented player. And look, you spent a late, or at least I did. I spent a late first, and that's why I have a decent amount of shares of Devon Achane. I have a good amount because I was willing to spend a late first to get him on my team. So you're just.
I spent 1.4 on.
Oh wow! I'm guessing one QB though.
Yeah, one QB. Yeah. Besides that, I got a lot of Achane too as well because I was willing to spend that capital.
Yeah, but with that, you're just replacing the one first. So would you pay basically an extra late first to get him on your team? And at this point, I think I would.
All right, let's move on to the next thing here, Garrett. There are 4 teams currently right now in the NFL without a win. These teams are the Vikings, Broncos, Bears, and Panthers. What player should we be most worried about here, like losing their jobs, changing teams maybe as a trade deadline's coming up? I've already heard from what looks like a reliable source says the Broncos are already talking about making multiple trades here, maybe blowing this up. I know Garrett Bowles just came out very unhappy with the team, the left tackle. Oh, yeah, saying all he's done is lose. So he's probably going to be on the trade block here. We know Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton were both on the trade block earlier. Nothing really came to fruition here. I know Cortland Sutton almost got traded to the Ravens, but that was about it. What are you guys thinking here, these teams, and how it's going to affect our dynasty teams going forward?
Obviously, where there's smoke, there's fire. I feel like the Broncos are the most likely at this point. I don't think anyone else is kind of hitting the panic button that are real low in the rankings. Obviously, the Jets are not going anywhere fast, but they're at least got to play like they're not going to unload a bunch of people because they think Aaron Rodgers is coming back. Some of the other teams that are kind of bottom feeders in the divisions or Cincinnati, they're just kind of waiting for Joe Burrow to get healthy. Tennessee Titans 1 and 2, that one could be interesting, right? In my opinion, anyway. A lot of older players on there. That could be a roster that gets kind of churned throughout the year. But specifically the Denver Broncos, I could definitely see them unloading some of their fantasy assets. I mean, Cortland Sutton, like you said, has already been rumored kind of to be on the move at one point in the offseason. It never happened. The problem is none of them are playing, out, over the top and great in order to kind of showcase themselves in order to get anything good for the Broncos. So who knows if that happens, just because the whole team just looks kind of like a mess. Some of the other ones, I mean, obviously the Bears, right?
Yeah, the Bears and Broncos actually play each other this week. So fortunate for them, one of them has to at least get
Somebody's
a tie.
Gotta win.
I saw that today too. I was like,
yeah. So that'll be really interesting. You guys mentioned, Jeudy, Sutton. Sutton's done a little bit. I think he's done better than people project. What I really wanted to happen, it obviously won't. But I thought it was hilarious. Like, oh, the Jets need a quarterback. Maybe Russell Wilson should get traded to the Jets. Only then he would be reunited with his coach last year. That didn't quite pan out. But I am keeping an eye on the Bears, and I wanted to bring them up specifically because, look, we like to highlight the things we get right. But here I've got to like own up to it. I was in on Fields. Like, I really thought that he was going to take that next step, and it's only 3 weeks. It's not done and over, but with them having 2 first-round picks, there would have to be a drastic turnaround. Is it possible? Sure, but it doesn't look very good right now. And so that's one of those players that and that's the toughest part about the quarterback position, more so than anything else, is just how is the between the ear stuff going to go? And I think that's been one of the biggest things this year for Justin Fields is he's not developed his ability to be able to read the field like I thought he would. He hasn't taken the next steps in the passing game. So I am concerned about that. And this could be a scenario where the Bears just kind of rip the Band-Aid off. Because this is year 3 for this regime. They could just let everybody go. They could start over, and they could be starting over legitimately because they have the Panthers pick, who are also without a win. They could legitimately be starting with Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, I will say for redraft, though, I do think Fields is a potential value to trade for in redraft because somebody has to start the rest of the year. They want to do the best they can to showcase him, and maybe somebody will be interested if they end up moving on from Fields. And he's going to at some point just revert to back to what he was doing before and just running for his life. And so there is still potential fantasy goodness for this year, but my long-term outlook on Justin Fields has changed drastically, which really sucks.
Yeah, I made that trade in a Superflex league months and months ago where I have so many Justin Herbert shares where I end up trading Justin Herbert for Justin Fields and like J.K. Dobbins is what the trade was, I think. And I think it's something small on top. It is what it is. Those kind of moves you make in Dynasty, and some work out and some don't. This is a situation might not work out. Now, I'm not saying all's lost on Justin Fields because, like, how much is this? Is it the coaching staff? Like, why isn't the coaching staff putting him in position to win? I mean, if we look back, we had the exact same conversations last year about Justin Fields. The difference was he was running the ball a little bit better than he is right now. So it's weird. I don't know what's going on here. Does he take time to rev up here and get the offense going? Is it just a coaching staff and him are not on the same page? Because right now, you're right, Garrett. He's not reading the defenses. He's not. It's just everything's not everything's not playing out for Justin Fields as we had all predicted. In this offseason, we saw him and DJ Moore have that really good connection where they're consistently connected. They're in the preseason and in practice and joint practices. For me, I'm really confused because this is a talented quarterback who we saw last year take a step forward the second half of the year, and now is taking one big massive step back. And I'm hesitant to say, oh, this is all Justin Fields. Like, he's not reading the defense the way he's supposed to. Like, I want to know what the coaching staff is asking him to do.
Right.
And is this one of those systems where they're trying to put a square peg in a round hole?
Yeah, 100%. And I mentioned to you guys before the show or anything that I had family in town this weekend. So I was a little bit preoccupied at times, but my family was from Chicago, and my cousin and I were specifically talking about the Chicago Bears a little bit. And he's like, we have the best running back in the league, like it's like his comment to me. He doesn't follow like anything other than the Chicago Bears. He's not like, he doesn't know the rest of the league or anything like that. He's like a very hometown centric type of fan. And I had the exact same conversation with him. I'm like, listen, from my perspective, I feel like they need to get this guy moving more. And he's like, definitely, for sure. He's like, they're just trying to like have him be a drop back passer. And that is a square peg in a round hole. And I use those exact terms with him. And it's just, I don't understand what they're hoping to gain from that kind of coaching style. I just do what works well for him. And if he's slow to kind of pick things up, baby step it. Like, build on the things he does well. Don't just force him to do what you want him to do right off the rip. I mean, when a guy like Ben Roethlisberger came in the league, he used his legs quite a bit, and he was a dual threat type of guy, Big Ben, and he eventually developed much more as a passer and became just a pocket passer. But that took years. It wasn't immediate, but they are immediately trying to turn this guy that has a very, very good skill set into something that he's just not yet. And they may end up ruining him completely before this is all said and done. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully maybe they come around and switch tactics and kind of get back to basics, or get back to what he was at least good at last year, and kind of try to start building from that again. Because right now it doesn't look great, and it's not clicking. He like you mentioned, Garrett, he still can't process quick enough. When I see him play and he gets pressure right in his face, he still doesn't know what to do. That was one of the biggest issues I saw with him coming into the NFL from this college tape. It hasn't progressed. He hasn't gotten better at that. So that it's an issue, and it's a bummer because he's got a ton of talent. Hopefully, the coaching staff will start helping him out a little bit more and get him on designed movement plays where he's throwing on the run. That's what he's good at. That's what he can do well. And I don't understand, I guess, why the Chicago Bears coaching staff hasn't figured that out.
Yeah. Are you guys willing to buy low, or is it one of those situations that's just so bad right now that you don't want to touch it? I don't want to take the risk, because right now his value went from being a first round startup pick to, he's going below guys like Jordan Love now, CJ Stroud. Like, he's in the Bryce Young range for people as far as quarterbacks. Are you guys interested in attempting to buy low, or is it just too ugly right now to approach? Because I'm torn on it, because I am terrified by what I've seen. But on the flip side, on a week where everything went wrong. Then and I'm not even talking about the game, like just the week leading up to the game. Then you had to play the Chiefs. Like, it wasn't like they had somebody where like, oh, we get to have a get back game against, whoever.
Yeah,
no, they
Jets.
had to. Yeah, exactly. Like, you had to go against the Chiefs. Like, that's tough. So it could bounce back or could end up on a new, like Atlanta could end up taking him and could turn the things around and, ends up being a great quarterback. But I see the risk at the same time where this could just implode and he's just never a starting quarterback. So are you guys willing to buy or is it just hands off?
Yeah, I like how you mentioned Atlanta because that'd be a really good spot for Justin Fields to go to. A run-centric coach. Yeah, and a run-centric coach to kind of like really ease him into that system out there. Because if it doesn't work in Chicago, he's going to get traded. And I can see Atlanta definitely how they're already 2-1. Somehow they have a mid-range pick there in the NFC, giving up their first for Justin Fields. And I kind of feel the same way. If I'm a contender, I have no problem giving them a first. I mean, anytime you get to take a gamble on a young quarterback, it's worth taking that gamble. Sometimes it pans out, sometimes it doesn't. Like I said, if you give a first for Jordan Love 2 years ago or so, like you feel pretty good about that right now. And I know Matt sold him for a first at the same time. And if I bet Matt can have it back, he would have Jordan Love back. But those are the games we play in Dynasty because sometimes it works out and doesn't. So as long as I'm a contender, which usually puts you in position, never have a shot at a young QB, which is 50-50 anyways, I have no problem giving a first round pick. If I'm locked in where I'm probably not going to make the playoffs, I'd rather just hold on to my pick and see if I get in position here to get the Drake May, the Quinn Ewers, or see where these quarterbacks end up in this NFL draft. And if not, even a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. could easily get you a Justin Fields right now. If you compare him to somebody like, I don't want to say you compare him to a player like Devontae Smith value. That's where like Marvin Harrison Jr. comes in right now. That could probably get you a pretty decent. I can get you Jordan Love right now if you want to. That could get you Daniel Jones. I know Daniel Jones isn't having the greatest of times right now, but that can kind of get you a quarterback you're a little bit more comfortable with. So I'd have to be a contender only to give up that first, but I would feel comfortable doing it.
Matt, would you?
I think a first. Yeah, I think a first range. I still would feel comfortable for sure. Anything greater than that, I'm starting to feel like I'm taking a little bit too much risk, and it's not starting to feel good anymore. The Jordan Love thing, getting back to what you were saying, Rich, I do kind of regret getting rid of him for a first round draft pick when I did, but at the same time, for that team, I had Justin Herbert, I have Tua, I had Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
I had just picked Love in the second, so that was a quick flip for me. Like I got him in the second, got a first for him. So sometimes those are the trades that you make. I mean, long term it didn't work out great. In the short term, I got a first, for a second, basically pretty quick. So it wasn't awful. And those are the kind of trades that kind of make the dynasty world go around, right? I mean, it probably worked out great for the person that traded the first in the long term, but he went through probably 2 years of wondering what the heck he gave up. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God. And Justin Fields, to kind of wrap that in a bow, Justin Fields could be that same type of crappy feeling. You might give up a first for him now and feel really crappy about him kind of the rest of this season as it unfolds. But if he gets on to another team, it could be greener pastures and it could end up working out. So that's kind of the thought process of giving up a first round draft pick for a guy like that, because he's just got a ton of talent. Hopefully he gets somewhere that can kind of unlock it.
Absolutely.
All right, that's today's show. Remember to check out our sponsors, Underdog, My FFPC, and Sleeper. If you enjoyed the show, leave us a rating and review on iTunes. Check us out on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, follow button there as well. We'll be back next week, like always. Hope your team's going to stay healthy, and we're not talking about anybody out for the year. I'm excited as we get this last full week of NFL teams. Remember, there is 9:30 games this Sunday, right. So make sure you get your lineup set. Make sure you don't wait till I'll set them in the morning. Make sure you check that at night, because by the time you wake up, there will be football on. Definitely for you West Coasters out there. But this is it. Once these buys come in, it really starts to define the standings in your Dynasty League. So I'm excited to see the new challenge that's about to approach us here.
Yeah. Mike Williams, you're my boy, dude. Adios.
I miss you.